Okay, we're online.
It's in your deck.
Okay. All right. All right, better get started. Welcome to the last meeting of the year, December 14th, 2017. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Just want to first mention we're going to change some items in the agenda because Neil has to be called away in a short time. So we're going to start off with the Modi, and then move to Underhill, and then followed by McDonald Heights and Creek Road Apartments as far as the public hearing goes. And I want to start off, before we get started, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the recent passing of Michael Morris. I just wanted to offer our condolences to the family. Morris Associates Engineering has been a great company he built. All right, first up is Modi, 23 Davis Avenue, new ophthalmology building. Site plan and special use permit. Hearing for proposed two-story medical office building, 11,200 square feet, and configuration of the parking on a site with existing one-story medical office building of 12,500 square feet. 23 Davis Avenue, zoned ATC, Arlington Town Center, 1.64 acres, unlisted action. Idiom Equities Incorporated, owner. Welcome.
Good evening, Joseph Berger Engineering for that.
Do you have anything further to present tonight on the updates? We've gone through it quite a
I think we made the revisions to the plan for the last meeting's suggestions and recommendations of the board and their consultants. And we're here to answer any questions and concerns the board may have based on.
Oh.
Talking to the mic. I was.
It wasn't coming through. So
Now turn on.
there you go. Repeat again, please.
We've made the revisions to the plans as suggested and recommended by the planning board at the last meeting, along with the consultants, and here to answer any questions the board and the consultants may have.
Okay, thank you. Who's got this one, Eric?
You have the staff comments in your packets. I think staff are recommending that we feel the plans are in shape for a seeker determination for neg deck and for a conditional approval of the site plan and of the special use permit. I guess issues considered, which are in here, are one, you might want to take a look at the architecture just to ensure that the building is as you think it will fit into the site. There was a comment on the Davis Avenue frontage and whether you'd like to see landscaping or a stone wall in that location. Mm-hmm. We've suggested as a condition of approval that measures to address parking during construction be specified on the plan. You may or may not want us to discuss that with the applicant tonight. And that's pretty much our comments.
All right,
Otherwise,
thanks.
we feel they're in shape to go.
Before we go on the board, it's a public hearing. Do I hear a motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, public hearing open. Carol, do we have a sign-up sheet for? Thank you. All right, first on the sign-up is Linda Cole, 38 Davis Avenue. Wishes to speak. State your name and address for the record. And
Hi, Linda Cole. I was just wondering if the concerns that we wrote down the last meeting, if any of them was addressed. We asked for the police to do a traffic report for the parking. We were wondering if that was looked into for Filer Avenue.
Okay.
Okay, my other question was too, the neighbors on the street, we are concerned because we don't know why he's building that extension of the building. Is it because the surgical is expanding? We don't understand that. We tried to find information on that and we couldn't.
Okay, I mean, last meeting, he kind of explained that equipment is kind of tight in his current space, and he wanted to have more room to move around and make it easier for the patients. So he was not taking on any new patients, was his explanation. He was just making more room for the existing equipment.
It's just for
And-
it's not expanded on the surgical building?
Not that I'm aware of.
Basically, Dr. Modi's practice is such that with the new technology and the way his practice works, he's confined in, as most offices, his patients and his workers are working in very tight arrangements, which makes it very uncomfortable for the workers and sometimes uncomfortable for his patients. So in an effort to make both their lives easier with the new equipment that his practice uses, he needs more room. And he can't get that in the current situation. So, and in the same, the tenant on it needs more storage for the same purposes. So by building the new building and moving his practice into the new building, he gets his storage, he gets the room for the new equipment, he leaves more room for his patients to be able to have more privacy instead of sitting back to back, and the other tenant gets the storage they need for their equipment without having to leave the area. So this is basically just a practice of keeping what he has there and making it more doable. And in time, we grow into it, but he likes to practice the way he is. He's not planning on expanding, but he also doesn't want to go the other way. Without doing this, the opposite happens, the loss of patience, or he needs to leave. So this is an effort just to make everything more pleasant, and that's an important process.
And we have some, I believe, Eric, we have something in the resolution to that effect.
Yeah, just to expand a little, I could have mentioned earlier, in the recommendations to the board tonight, if you choose to accept the staff's recommendation, the special use permit allows conditions on the proposed use of this site, and it makes use of statements, assertions by the applicant with regard to the application. The applicant has stated that there will be no expansion, no increase in the number of doctors or staff or patients with this operation. And so with the assistance of the planning board attorney, conditions have been crafted as a part of the board's, to be incorporated into the board's approval tonight, should you act on it, that will provide for monitoring of that through two different mechanisms. So that will require reporting by the applicant on an annual basis for the next 3 years with regard to employees and staff. And then the other one is, should there be a change in use of the site or change to the site plan, then it would require the board to revisit the terms of the special use permit that provides for this building. So it allows the planning board, as a result of the applicant is stating that there will be no increase in the parameters that would affect the parking demand on the site, and so there are conditions intended to take him at his word, basically, and maintain that condition into the future. Furthermore, the proposed parking will increase by 14 spaces, and the applicants provided data that demonstrates that while there may be a bit of a crunch on site now, the additional 14 spaces provided are anticipated to allow for the existing parking demand that's there today to continue.
That's additional from what's there now?
Right.
Correct.
Yes.
And that meets, and it exceeds the town code for what the required parking is when he does that.
Suppose he doesn't stick to that, and it goes above, you said it's gonna be monitored?
There's an annual, the recommended condition is for an annual reporting requirement. If the conditions were not met, then it would place the special use permit approval in jeopardy. The planning board would have an opportunity to revisit that application and approval.
Okay, with the surgical place that that building that he's gonna move out of, what is planned on going in there? Are they planning on expanding?
It's similar, they need more storage room. They need to also, if you go into the current place, their waiting room is absolutely substandard in size for the number of patients they currently have. Everybody's standing, not literally toe to the, but it's very tight. So they have the same concerns that we need to expand our area so we can produce and do what we're doing, or they have to look,
So basically,
both practices have the same similar issues.
she's basically separating the uses out of that one building to the surgical portion and
And storage is a big
ophthalmology
part.
portion.
Storage of records, as the business grows, records have to be kept, and more records create, and you end up having more and more. We all have that with our houses, with the garages and everything. Businesses have the same problem. We have to, by law, keep records, and you get more and more stuff. Old machines, new machines replace old machines go into the corner until you get rid of them. Storage becomes an issue as any business succeeds, and it's very good. I think the town of Poughkeepsie in the note that here are two businesses that are doing very well, and they want to continue to do well.
Well, we don't have a problem about the business. The problem we have is the parking. And on I walk every day. And at 8 o'clock in the morning, Fowler Avenue, Davis Avenue, both sides of the street, you cannot move in there. If you have a big truck that's going in there with another car right next to it, there's no room. They're parking on both sides of the corner. On Fowler Avenue every day, there are 2 cars parked in front. I don't know if it's an insurance company. Always on both sides, there are parked. We've seen it. The parking that they have isn't enough. So my question is this. The homeowners, there's not that many of them. And we feel we're getting all squeezed out. You can't park in front of your own home. When you try to pull in your driveway, people are going too fast. They don't stop on the corner of Davis Avenue on the 4 stop sign. They don't.
Yep.
It is a nightmare.
Yeah, no, it sounds like parking is the biggest issue in that area. Looking at it today, I saw a car sticking out on Davis Avenue right into Fowler Avenue, parked right on the corner, so.
Are you going to
it's
have
certainly
the
an issue,
police?
but it's, I'm glad that Dr. Modi's adding 14 more spaces that will help his business, and if he's not growing clients, that should hopefully take some of that off.
But where
If he
can they
has-
go? I mean, that parking lot, there's no room. Where can they go? If you're going to have 14 more parking spots,
The woods
where?
area.
Yeah,
In the area where the
he's
woods is.
expanding in what he has now is some grass areas and woods. He's adding more pavement in there.
This whole area is woods right now. So we're adding parking right in there.
So that hopefully will alleviate that situation, but
It's not
there
going
has to be some
That was
there has to be some
good.
additional enforcement and issues, but it's,
Are you going to have the traffic with the police so they can, there's no signs there. Now,
That's something
by
we
Davis
should look
Avenue,
into.
beginning where Joe Ward's business is, which we have a problem with that parking, there is a sign, small sign on the street light, no parking on corner.
okay.
But on Fowler Avenue, there isn't, and I'm
It sounds
telling
like
you.
we need to
Yes.
investigate having a sign put in on that.
And I also have a
Fowler Ave.
question too about the snow removal. The last meeting that we went to, they were talking how they take the snow out of the, remember,
Take it
David?
away.
We'll take it away, yes.
Yeah. We've been living there for a long time and that has never happened. They do not do that. That snow,
They use that where the new building is.
Yeah, but that's,
To
they had
prevent-
a spot before to use, they no longer have that, they've committed to maintaining it. Before, they didn't have to because they had that spot.
okay,
But
so
that's a
where are they
totally-
going to put that snow then?
They're
There's
going, we have snow areas designated, when it exceeds those areas, they'll, just like any other business around here, same as my parking lot where I'm over on Fulton Avenue, they come in, just the other day, even in a small snowstorm, they came in the next day with trucks, they put it in, they haul it out and they take it to the site, and it's part of the construction.
So
it's
he's
fi-
going to do that. The town's not going to do that.
No, this is
He's
our,
gonna
this
do
is
it.
our project to do. Any snow removal and maintenance will be done by Dr. Modi, and And that's not uncommon for commercial sites to have snow taken away when it exceeds the capacity of the site.
Right, it's quite a few sites in the town that they have to
Yep.
do that.
Again, my office not too far from this area here, we do that 20 times
Well, I
a
know
year.
other people do that. We
So
just
it's-
never saw him do that
He
before
didn't need
take
to
the
before.
snow.
Because he had the on-site
I mean, when he
storage.
had the woods, why not use it? So that's why,
Well,
it's
we
not that
just
he
never
didn't.
saw him do that, so
he
we were
didn't
just
need to.
concerned about that.
That's a good point to bring up, that they have
Yeah.
they have thought of it, and they've.
Yeah, the key is, we thought about it up front. It's not that we never wanted to, we didn't need to before. Now the current use will require that, and we're gonna provide it and do that.
Any additional comments you guys have?
Well, that woods that they currently have now is used for everything, dumping all the debris and what have you.
Well, that,
So they're not
that's,
gonna be able to do that either.
no, of course not. The landscaping will, just as any other
They
commercial
dump
site.
everything back there.
Unfortunately, that happens when you have the area. When you don't, it gets taken away by you landscapers as part of their contract.
So the last thing that I can say, when we wrote all our concerns, I thought today they were going to go through the concerns that we had. We had a whole list of things, and I'm not really hearing that. And I also would really like to know definitely if they're going to have a police over there to, they said the last meeting that they would have someone to address the problem with the traffic so bad that you can't see going over Fowler and all the parking that on both sides of the road. I was hoping that some of that would be addressed. It doesn't seem like any of that has been.
But, I mean, we have your letter from last time as part of the record, so we will investigate, look into that, how they can do that.
They will look into
It'll
that.
be something that the police department will be asked to look into. It's not specific to this project, but yes, we will follow up.
Okay, they will do that. And the buffer for the lights too, since that building is going to be shining into the people's houses there, that it will be addressed?
Well, the lights are gonna be the same as they are now. There's light poles there. We're just moving those poles to the building. They're gonna be the same down. So the lights that you see now will be identical, no different.
And the business should be closed at night mostly.
It's always closed at night. By 5 o'clock, they're out.
Yeah.
They're not there on weekends. I would,
Right.
You know, in the past, the people, the homeowners on the street have been very respectful for Modi's property. It used to be a very bad hangout for drugs and kids drinking, and we always called the police. We always didn't want that there.
For sure.
We didn't want that type of people hanging on our street. Since that building's going to be back, we don't want that problem to, happen again.
Well, the
So we
building-
hope there'll be enough lights and stuff so that that's not going to be a hangout
the
again.
lights are gonna be identical to what you see now. The building's in the woods. So if you imagine where the woods were, actually probably where some of the kids could have stayed. It's
Yeah,
not
see,
gonna be
that's
there
what they
anymore.
like, the woods.
But they're not
so
gonna
they
be there
can-
anymore.
So that'll be the
Okay.
The
building.
woods, the area where they could have collected can't be because the building's gonna be there.
Okay.
The lights are pretty much in the same general location what you see now. I don't see
Okay.
any difference in the lighting. The way we laid it out, we laid the lights to be on top of what's there now, so they wouldn't have any more spillage.
So be localized lights.
Absolutely.
Low,
Very low, and
My
they're more
la-
for security because again, our client doesn't
right.
have nighttime or weekend hours.
And my last question is, the last time we were here, Dr. Modi said that he was having a daycare there.
No, that's for his
He's-
employees. He's
They're
gonna
going to
provide.
have kids there. It's
They're
gonna
gonna
be a daycare.
provide, it's gonna be providing area for if one of the nurses or staff has a sick child or a child that needs to go. It's
Oh,
just
he
providing.
said a daycare.
He uses the word
He said-
daycare because that's what it is to him, but it's not a
I
daycare
mean, it's-
center.
yeah, it's not open to the
Nor
public
is it
kind of
to bring people in. It's providing a service that most offices do in a unofficial manner. It's
Okay.
gonna be an area where 3 of the staffers need to bring their child in because they're not feeling good or they're gonna have a doctor's appointment. Instead of taking off the day, they're gonna bring them in. It is a daycare, but it's not an official daycare center.
It's a daycare for his employees.
Well, but it's
Yeah.
not for, the difference I see,
Not
the
for
difference
every
is a daycare center is where someone drops a kid off every single day. And that's not what it's intended to be. This is a service to sit
somebody in my office would do.
Oh, well,
And they usually put them in an office somewhere or something. This
Okay.
is a little bit
because they
different.
made it sound like it was for all of his employees.
It is for his employees as a benefit of something, which I think most offices kind of do in a more of a, unless someone has to I am bringing my child to work because they're not feeling good, or they have an office or go somewhere, they play in the back corner. Here, there's going to be an area that allows that. That's
Okay.
some of the things to think about. It's not a planned daycare center where, there's going to be a daycare workers and all the people can bring in and bring their kids in from 8 to 5. No, that's not what it's going to be.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
okay, so then the next meeting, they'll address everything else that we had about the traffic with the police and the other concerns that we had, that will be more addressed then?
We're gonna, or if we approve it conditionally, then those will be part of the conditions to have them addressed.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So thank you for your comments tonight again.
Thank you.
And thank you, Joe, for explaining all those.
Thank you.
Also,
Thank you.
next on the list is Ann Shearson. Hi, Ann.
Hi, Ann Shershin, 6th Ward Town Council person. And early on, I was able to review the project and what they were offering, and I'm appreciative that they do want to expand in our area and expand in the Arlington area. It shows a commitment to the businesses there, and it's very appreciative. And also, the things I liked about the plan is that the building was going to be in the back. It backs up to another commercial up to the hotel. So we're disturbing as few of the neighbors as possible. And they're trying to keep the street shape the same as it is now and not lose the street trees. So we appreciate that. And obviously, parking is always a concern. So I'm glad they're going to be removing some of their islands and expanding some other areas to try to keep as much parking as possible on their site. And as for the other concerns of the neighbors, which were very well put, I'll contact Sergeant Bruschetta, the traffic sergeant, and have him put up his speed counter there to try to get the traffic aware of how fast they're going, and also to take a look at where people are parking. Because even if the sign isn't up there, it's a state law that you can only park, you're supposed to be 20 feet off of the corner. So if we have people who aren't respectful of that, they can be ticketed now.
Right, there was an SUV parked right on the corner of Davis where it meets Fowler, and coming out of Fowler, I can't see around it, so I know the situation.
And,
So we
sadly, parking is not that tight, but you have to be willing to walk. And some people want to park right by that door. And really, it isn't that difficult to find parking in Arlington if you're willing to walk a block or two.
All right, thank you for your comments.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to comment on this application? There's no additional signage. Seeing none, I move we close the public hearing.
Move we close the public hearing?
Do I have a second?
Second. Sure.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. Call the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. We have a 7-0. 6. We're missing John tonight. All right, go around the board. Any engineering comments, Andrew, on this project?
I'll just follow up. Aside from the parking, I'll start with parking. As far as during construction, we did ask that they have some proposed parking spaces, the parking spaces that they can construct that are outside of the new building footprint, and we asked that they construct those early on in the project. That's going to be a note on the plans that they'll take care of that.
We agree.
Help alleviate those issues during construction, which will probably be the most time that it'll be the least amount of parking available.
Agreed.
The other issue had to do with the drainage along the east side of the building. Since last time, they have shifted the building over and changed the collection of the runoff to a swale, an open swale that will then be piped into a drainage system. So those two things have alleviated the issues that I saw with the need for a drainage or an easement with the neighbors. So I think that's been resolved.
Okay,
these
great.
changes.
Yep.
And that's pretty much all I had.
All right, thank you. Continue to go around the board. Rocco, do you have any?
No, I think all the issues have been talked about, and the conditions are in place.
Brian?
I'm all set, thank you.
Nicole?
No, thank you.
Let's see, Ben?
I have nothing at this time.
And Peter?
The last time we met and Mr. and Mrs. Cole were here, I suggested to them that they look at the YouTube tape, I think it was in October when we met, because Dr. Modi was here and he gave a great explanation of exactly what his intentions are for those buildings. And he really addresses all of the concerns that Mr. and Mrs. Cole brought up tonight. And I would suggest that they take a look at that tape because it's
Yeah, he addressed it, and Joe did a fairly good job of that.
there's
as
a
well
lot of
tonight.
information there. Also, I think the Coles and the other neighbors should take comfort that Councilwoman Shershin, who is a junkyard dog when it comes to taking care of the concerns of her constituents, that she'll look into this, and if there's anything that can be done, she won't quit until it's taken care of. The other thing is, it takes some consolation in as far as any expansion of use in this facility. I just want to underscore what Carl said previously, and that is we're going to have 3 years of census taking here. So that we're going to be watching this project as it goes along, and if there are any problems that come up, we'll take care of them. Last but not least, in front of the building on the sidewalk, you're going to put in Alberta spruce. Alberta spruce can turn on you. And I just think you should maybe take a look at boxwood or something else that's low growing. Alberta spruce will grow maybe 3 to 4 inches a year.
I think staff is recommending a stone wall in that area, which I've spoke to Dr. Modi, and he's more than happy to do.
All right, terrific, because I think the spruce might be a headache for
I
you
think
long
that
term.
takes care of both of those issues.
Great.
Yeah, I think stone wall would look nice along there as well, so.
So we're I was going to say later, but Dr. Modi has agreed to do the stone wall.
Okay, terrific. All right, that was one of my comments as well. Thank you, Peter. And the other issue I had was construction. But I did see a comment that and I think Andrew confirmed that they plan to do some off-site parking during construction as well.
Yes, we plan for the contractors and for the staff to be parked off-site, yes.
Okay, and do you know about how long that construction period will take place?
Longer than we hope. We're hoping under 3 to 6 months, more closer probably to 6 months
Toward
to
the
normal
6 months, yeah.
construction. It
Okay.
should be 3 months, but it'll probably be 6.
Always weather dependent.
Yeah,
It's also that.
Because it's in, what are the hours of operation for the construction period? Since we're in a neighborhood, you know, it's,
They're going to comply with the zoning code, but it'd most likely be 8 to 5.
what about Saturday and Sunday?
Typical construction doesn't occur on Saturday and Sunday, other than Sunday you can't do anyway, that's by code.
Right.
There will be times you need to pour concrete or do some inside work on Saturday, but we'll certainly stay within the hours of the town. But most construction of this type is a Monday through Friday.
Yeah, and there's the town noise ordinance to.
Typically it's an 8-hour day because overtime would kill the project cost. And most contractors start around 7:30, so 8 o'clock is a good starting time. And you put an 8-hour in, it's 5 o'clock, they're done.
Yep.
Very rarely are you gonna find a project like this can absorb the cost over time, so.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could make, Carol just brought up a good point. Joe, when's your anticipated start date?
Certainly for trees.
Trees.
Yes.
Before the deadline, that's what I
Yes.
see.
Before March 31st.
What we will do as soon as you get our approval, we'll start the process of getting a site contractor for declaring purposes, where we have that figured out.
I think that would be a good
Actual
idea.
construction, more likely will start somewhere in the spring.
But if we can get those trees cleared before March 31st.
We are well aware of that, and we're
Yeah,
hoping
I'm
to
sure
do
you
it
are.
before that. No, that's the whole idea of, it's, even though it seems like it's what, we have plenty of time to get this project, getting approval tonight lets us get a contractor. It takes about a month to do that, so we'll be talking February 1st before we can get somebody on the ground, because you gotta vet it, you gotta make sure they're okay, bond them and everything. And that takes, especially with Christmas time, at least 4 weeks. So the earliest we could get a contractor out there, given moving ahead on this would be February. That gives us February to get the trees down. And we want them down long before the deadline. I do not want to be
Don't
in
be
March
pushing that.
20th running around.
No.
For sure.
And I don't want to be before this board after that. Or any board. I'll retire.
I move that the planning board as lead agency hereby determine that the Modi 23 Davis Avenue new ophthalmology building project would not have a significant adverse effect on the environment, and that no environmental impact statement will be required for the reasons set forth in the seeker negative declaration for an unlisted action dated December 14th, 2017.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. The motion on the board. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes 6-0.
I move that the planning board adopt the attached resolution in the matter of 23 Davis Avenue, Item Equities Incorporated, Dr. Satish Modi, for conditional site plan special use permit approvals with conditions dated December 14th, 2017, subjected to the following: number 1 through 3.
And add that, I would add comments from tonight, such as the stone wall, to include.
Yeah, we agree with the stone wall.
And it's been moved and seconded. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Do you have the ability to conduct architectural review tonight on the new building?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
The architect's still working on it. We'll have to come back for architectural.
Okay.
But that's a separate approval.
Yes.
Anyway, so we can move forward with getting our contractor.
Yep.
Okay, good. This allows him to move forward with selecting the architect to do the elevation as well. Get that, so that's where we're at now, so.
All right, thank you. And I think the additional parking spaces is going to help to alleviate that problem in the area.
Thank you, and we saw that
Even
as
if
a result
it's-
from our first meeting, we were discussing it, so.
So,
Thank you all for your help, and thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Happy holidays.
Yep.
okay, next up, Underhill Solar LLC, type plan public hearing regarding a proposed plus or minus 3,000 kilowatt solar photovoltaic array ground-mounted system, 130 and 122 Underhill Road, zoned R4A, residence single family 4-acre district, plus or minus 71 acres. Type 1 action, Brian and Sally Underhill owners.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Ann Whaling from Cypress Creek Renewables, and I have with me Christina Zalesi from Langen Engineering and Marissa Scavo, Zoning Manager for Cypress Creek Renewables. Also with me tonight are two of our team engineers, Harrison Netz and Daniel LaRose. They're also in the audience, so if you have questions, I've got people to answer them.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Do you have any additional presentation? We've seen the project a few times. I'm going to just...
Yeah, I think that this is mostly just for our reference. You know, we're discussing a 2-megawatt solar facility that we've been reviewing for quite some time. And I think most of what needs to be covered tonight can probably be addressed by discussion
Okay.
rather than presentation.
Yeah, we've been working on this for a while, and we have plans. I think we're getting very close. We've made a lot of progress on, I think the engineer will agree, there's been a lot of progress on some stubborn engineering issues, and some of the issues with regard to zoning. The town board took care of some changes, and the applicant has responded to that very well. So I think it's moving along well. There's a few issues that remain, and if they can be handled, I think we'll be in a position, hopefully we'll be in a position next time to recommend an action. Right now, we are recommending that the plan, that we've laid out we were anticipating it was possible. We might get past some of these, but there's just enough of them. We thought the board is maybe more inclined to wait and get back plans dealing with some of these remaining issues before moving ahead. However, we have provided you with a resolution. If you would rather move ahead, it is possible to do so. But we are recommending deferral at this time. I guess some of the key issues, there is some plan cleanup to do, including consistency with the application, getting the second parcel carefully, properly delineated on the plan and information on that. Excuse me, there's, the engineer has described some issues related to drainage and potential off-site easements that may be required. Legal access easement for this site, which is it's kind of a showstopper, but we do have a letter from the council for the adjacent owner indicating a willingness to move forward. We understand the applicant's in progress, so they've kept that moving. There's been discussion of a decommissioning plan where the board has some concerns and questions about that. We've laid out some points for discussion if you choose to tonight. And if we're also suggesting that just to pull everything together before next time, we'd be happy to sit down with the applicants to kind of go over their plan changes to make sure that we can move this to the next step with the next meeting.
Yeah, we've gotten, we just got the geotech report and that kind of thing, so we need to be able to absorb this information, go over it. Let's see, I think one of the biggest issues is the drainage, so I'll go to engineering, see what they have to say on that.
So drainage, we had some comments. We were a little concerned on the last review that the project was going to result in minor increases, but we wanted to make sure that in peak flow rates, we wanted to make sure that those are mitigated to the maximum extent practical. So with the latest plan set, they have provided small detention ponds that will mitigate those issues. But so we're happy with what they're doing in terms of the flow rates. The issue that has come up is that with at least one of the ponds, the pond has a pipe discharge that's directed at a property line, an adjacent property line, and the concern with that is the concentrated discharge and what that can what effect that can have on the neighboring property. And because of that, we recommended a drainage easement from that property. I've since seen a plan actually just received this afternoon where the applicant's engineer has attempted to disperse that discharge. Which may or may resolve that issue. I'll need to have some discussions with the town council or the attorney to make sure that legally the town is covered. But I think we're getting to the point where we may be able to, if avoid it or.
So you may be able to avoid an easement on the
Right.
property if they were able to spread it out and
Correctly.
avoid the erosion. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add the legal access issue. So we have representations from the neighboring parcel, counsel for the neighboring parcel who came before the board last meeting regarding the access issue. And I understand that he's been having conversations with the applicant, and I think that they have gotten to the point where they're sufficiently ready to put pen to paper, and they'll have those access issues resolved before the next meeting. And that is obviously a huge part of
Yes,
consideration.
The access issue came up, that was a concern.
And the decommissioning plan, there'd be an easement in favor of the town in the event that the town had to come in and decommission. So I think
So that'll be part of the easement resolution as well.
make those are conditions that are made a part of the site plan approval.
Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing. Do I hear a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, open the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, public hearing open. Anyone wishes to speak on this project, Underhill Solar? Okay, I move we adjourn the public hearing to, what do you think you'd come back with a resolution on all these issues, January or February?
Oh, January.
January.
We actually think we're pretty close to having resolved most of the issues, as you mentioned.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of things are in the works, so
we've spoken with both sets of neighbors, the one who's concerned about drainage, and he basically said, whatever is necessary, he's willing to work with us to provide that as well. So, we feel like we have good communication going with both the neighbors and that they're in favor of moving forward. So we were, comfortable from that aspect.
Okay, when's the submittal deadline for January?
It's actually the 26th.
It's December
but
26th.
26th.
Given that I think we're close, if you need an extra day or so, just let us know. I think we can accommodate it. It's going to be a very slow week anyway.
It's really more dependent. Do you think that the engineering situation will be satisfactory, that that's enough time for you to get everything?
I think the runoff issue is some of the biggest.
I mean, we'll, reach out to Andy and work with him to get him whatever he needs in time for the submission.
Okay, thanks. In that case, I move we adjourn the public hearing to January 18th, 2018.
Second.
I have one question.
I do have one question
Okay.
regarding the NISAC. Have you gotten a response from the DEC regarding I know there was a submission for the Blandings turtles and...
No, we have not
received
received,
anything.
we have not received their response yet. So we're still waiting, but we do expect it pretty rapidly.
We submitted the encounter and education plan for the Blandings turtles and received comments back, and I've incorporated those comments into the plan.
Use that microphone.
Oh, sorry. We incorporated those changes that DEC requested into the plan and submitted that second iteration back, and just haven't gotten a concurrence letter yet.
Okay. Have you submitted a copy of the letter to
Of the revised
NISDEC
plan?
from NISDEC to us?
The first comment letter or the revised encounter and education plan?
I'm not sure what the date of the last letter.
Okay.
If you can make sure we get a
Yes,
copy of
yeah.
that.
We can cross-check the dates, the revision dates, and see if that's the same.
I think the last letter we have from DEC on the record is dated September 20th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, sounds like that's moving on as well.
And feel free to just call them, give them a little jiggle.
That's fine.
Let me just finish up with do I have a second on adjourning the public hearing?
I second it.
Second. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes 6-0 to adjourn the public hearing to January 18th. Let's go around the board for additional comments. Nicole?
I'm all set.
No, I'm fine. At this point, I'm fine. All the issues.
Ben, any comments on the?
Nope.
Peter?
A question for the town engineer. On the geotech report, have you had a chance to review that?
I've reviewed it very briefly, but it pretty much confirms what we expected, shallow bedrock. I think it was between 3 to 6 feet in depth, mostly shale. Not anything that I was overly concerned about in terms of the development of the site.
I only had a few minutes to look it over. Something that jumped off the page, though, when I looked at it, and this, I don't know if there's any concern of ours, it might be a concern of yours, is that the distances between, there were 6 borings. Distances between the borings were greater than the length of a football field. I mean, do you feel comfortable?
Differences between the what were the length of a football
Where the
field?
borings were placed?
Oh, the borings. Do you want to speak to the geotech, Harrison?
Harrison would be the one.
Yeah.
Harrison, can you speak to the geotech path?
No, so I have no issue with the distances. I have no issue with the distances between the boring holes. It's a representative. It's a representation of the site overall. You can get a good idea of the subsurfaces with that amount of.
So there weren't any
site.
surprises?
No, no. Like Andrew said, pretty much what we thought was going to be there.
Okay.
What effect, thank you.
Yes.
What effect, if any, I mean, since that we are pretty close to bedrock there from the surface, any concerns, and we're going to be pulling up a lot of trees and vegetation, you've already taken that into consideration relative to?
Yeah, correct, right. So with the stormwater analysis there, I assume that the trees would be gone and it would be grass cover. That's part of the analysis.
Thanks.
All right, the concerns I had were similar. I mean, if there's shallow rock, I assume you just would drill into it for the posts or?
Yeah, there are various different ways that you can secure the racking system when it's bedrock. You know, you can screw it or you can
Okay.
push it in. I mean,
No-
it just depends on what racking system is appropriate for
No
the
blasting planned to get rid of the rock or anything, just
No, we
position.
traditionally use pile drivers, and then whenever we interact with bedrock, we use a screw system to.
Okay.
It's a pile driver with a screw system.
Yep,
So it's never really anything different than a pile driver.
sounds good. And what else did I have? Decommissioning. Anyone else have any further comments from the board?
It's in the, house.
No, thank you.
So seeing none, what's the pleasure of the board?
I move that the planning board determine that the application is incomplete for seeker review, pending further elaboration on the proposed development and its potential effects. I move that the planning board defer further action on the site plan application subject to the following. Yeah.
1 through 5.
1 through 5, is it 5?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, 1 through 5.
Do I hear a second for those
Second.
motions? It's moved and seconded that the planning board determine the application is incomplete for seeker review, pending further elaboration of the proposed development and its potential effects, and that the planning board defer further action on this site plan application subject to the following addressed comments 1 through 5. Call to question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Do that. Well, never mind. We'll do it next time. Okay. Thank you. It sounds like we're ready to button this up in January. And keep in mind the tree clearing also for before the end of March. You gave me.
Public agenda has a slight, it's a minor discrepancy, that's not correct. Public agenda, this is correct.
The one you just gave me.
Yeah, just give it one, just point down back to you.
Okay.
You have it, it's the same.
Okay, next up is McDonald Heights Town Center, Eastdale Village. Public hearings on site plan, special use permit, and subdivision applications. There's no further public hearing on the DEIS that was accomplished last time. For the McDonald Heights Town Center project, Eastdale Village, a proposed mixed-use development including 288 to 350 residential dwelling units in apartments and townhomes, 85,000 to 180,000 square foot of mixed commercial development, recreation area, and associated parking. 928, 932, 935, and 936 Dutchess Turnpike. Dutchess Turnpike and Victory Lane, zoned MHC, McDonald Heights Center, and IH Heavy Industrial Districts, 60.87 acres. Type 1 action, Meadowview Properties LLC, Kirchhoff Properties LLC, and Industrial Reto LLC owners. Welcome.
Thank you very much. As you pointed out, this is a continuation of the public hearing on site plan, subdivision, and special use permit. The comments that we received in response to the draft environmental impact statement will be addressed in the final environmental impact statement. We have received some comments from some of the town's consultants and other agencies in response to the site plan application that we are in the process of responding to, but don't see anything that's insurmountable at this time. In our recent submission, we provided the board with a slightly modified plan in response to some of the comments that we had received, as well as some revisions to the architectural elevations. Most notably, we've changed in the on the site plan the unit configuration somewhat. We've replaced the breezeway type buildings with a
hybrid walk-up type building. The overall residential density and the number of bedrooms remains the same. The non-residential component is principally the same as it was before. We've made some modifications to the program, but for the most part, the project remains the same. We did eliminate one townhome on the, we'll call it the east side, or the south side, I'm not quite sure how to refer to it.
Southeast.
That,
The right side of the map.
there you go. That line, the residences along Darrow, we've eliminated one of the townhomes there, so. But that, I think that's generally the summary of the changes that were made.
Mhm. Sounds good. Fleshing it out a little more detail.
And Mr. Chairman, again, and Jeff Kane with Kirchhoff, I guess two of the things I wanted to add is, one is we've been continuing our work with DOT on the design of the access and addressing issues related to traffic, and that process is really in parallel with our work here with the town, and so we've continued to work with, I guess you say DOT, but really all the agencies, but I know DOT is one that's been asked about. And the only other thing I want to address is we have had some. We've been doing some exploratory geotechnical investigations on the site, and I think there's been some concern from the public. There was concern that wait, did we skip something here and start construction? And just to assure the public, and I'm sure that the board knows that absolutely did not happen. All we've been doing is that exploratory geotechnical investigation on the site there, and that's why we've had had an excavator on the site there doing those excavations. So.
Yeah, I had somebody came to me and says, "What's going on there?"
Yes.
I said, "Well, it's not approved yet. Don't worry."
Right. No, and again, it's again part of that process to be able to get us and get the board the information necessary to understand the full implications of the project. So, thank you.
Thanks. Before we get into the public hearing, Eric?
I think, excuse me, Rich and Jeff pretty well. There's, as the project is still going through seeker review, there's really, it's kind of a progress print. At this point, since until the seeker review is completed, the board can't take any action, and in fact, some of the principal issues that drive the layout of the development to come out of the EIS. To that end, the plans have been circulated. There are comments from some of the key departments, including engineering, who may want to discuss it a little bit, to work on some of the infrastructural elements for the project and allow that to move forward while the EIS process is approaching conclusion. And I can vouch for the fact that, yes, there are a lot of discussions going on about the contents of that final EIS and how that will be handled.
Yeah, the more that's done in parallel, the better for that.
So to that end, we're simply recommending that the board accept the comments, raise any questions you may have from the 50,000-foot point of view about layout and uses on the property. If you have any questions, discuss with the applicant. It's a good time to get that out now, so that as it moves forward, they'll be equipped to move the details along as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Eric. This time, it's a public hearing. So do you hear a motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
I move to open the public hearing.
And second. Moved and seconded to open a public hearing. I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay. First up we have on the sign-up sheet is J. Breck Martin, Darrell Place.
Yeah, hi, I'm Breck Martin, I live on Darrow Place, 40-year resident, and I've had an opportunity to review the revised statements and the impact, and I'm concerned about the fact that a lot of the issues that were brought up last month don't seem to have been addressed in any way, shape, or form in the most revised thing that was not available to the public till Monday, but I did see it and have a chance to study it over the last 4 days. As I say, a lot of the issues were not addressed. I don't want to take up too much of the board's time this evening, but there were 5 issues that I think are of major concern to the town and especially to the residents in the area. One of them that seems to need addressing is the fact that we have the traffic in the Route 44 corridor development, and it seems we have a big discrepancy here between some of the agencies who have made some recommendations. I noticed there was a letter from John Andoch, or Ando, A-N-D-O-H. He's the Dutchess County Public Transit Administrator. In his letter, he said on both sides of Dutchess Turnpike, he would like to see included a bus shelter with trash receptacle bench, map case, solar-powered lighting in the turnout area near buildings E and H. And that there should also be sidewalk access along Dutchess Turnpike from Barnes Drive to Victory Lane and Darrow Place to Concord Village Drive with curb cuts that meet American with Disabilities Act requirements. Sounds great. However, from the New York State DOT, we have a letter from Adam Levine, who is the Director of Municipal Development, diametrically opposed to what the county gentleman said. We have, in his letter, it says, as noted on the October 20th, 2017 meeting, New York State DOT continues to have a number of notable concerns with the impacts of this project as presented in the TIS on the corridor. Proposed mitigations do not appear to match the potential impact to traffic. The position presented to New York State DOT at the meeting and in correspondence that the project is unmitigatable is not in keeping with the State Environmental Quality Review Act. And we look forward to working with you on several possible alternatives to improve the project. The other interesting thing was, he talked about in his issues, the site drive, he said a roundabout should be considered and that it should be shown as the first option. That doesn't seem to have been addressed.
That was State DOT said that?
Yeah.
I thought
Would you like a copy of the letter?
I thought State DOT had originally.
Also, they said, we are not convinced that the proposed multiple entrances and exits to this facility achieve what we're trying to accomplish. Please clarify or consolidate the number of access driveways. Under mitigation, they say, please explore the possibility of using adaptive traffic signal technology as a mitigation strategy. They also have, in the number 4 area of their issues, it says any on-street parking should be accommodated outside the New York State DOT right-of-way and not impede any potential widening of Route 44 anytime in the future. As noted on several occasions, the New York State DOT remains in preservation mode with respect to the infrastructure under state jurisdiction, and there are no plans or funds available for capacity improvements. However, the development cannot impede the ability to make future improvements along the corridor. Seems to be in direct contradiction with building bus stops and what have you. They also say on November 25th, 2015, a rendering depicting a large recreation area was adjacent to the development portion on the east side of Route 44 up to the Wappingers Creek. Although this was mentioned at the meeting, there are no plans for this parcel. Please confirm whether this is an intended use or not.
I mean, yeah, they do provide a recreation area that backs up to the creek and an additional parking lot for that.
But the DOT is not aware of any of the plans, just that the plans were mentioned.
Okay.
Okay, and again, I do have copies of these if you need it.
All right.
My second area that I was concerned about was storm and wastewater. We have a situation where they're recommending in the EIS 4 wet ponds proposed for the project site, including 2 located on the east side, 2 located on the west side. These wet ponds will be landscaped. They also are proposing 7 subsurface infiltration systems, including 5 on the east side and 2 on the west side of the project, which is fine. However, Richard Olson, who's the deputy town attorney, sent a letter on June 5 of 2003 with the Ferentino subdivision that never went through. And his letter specifically says, in regard to the above proposed development and its wastewater disposal system, The Water Pollution Control Department could operate the proposed subsurface disposal system if the town deems it the most efficient means of handling this waste. However, we would recommend an in-depth review of the design and construction. If overloaded, these systems can be very susceptible to failure. Control of the volumes of wastewater discharged into the system must be provided for to ensure that the peak gallons per minute discharge does not exceed the design. Further, it should be noted that previous administrations have not supported municipally operated and maintained subsurface systems in other areas of the town. Approval of this system could open the floodgates.
I can address that. There are no subsurface sewage disposal systems proposed for this project. All of the subsurface systems are for stormwater only.
Stormwater.
Correct, and I'm going to address the stormwater as well. In a letter from our highway superintendent dated March 22nd of 2006, there was a comment, the contained detention tanks described in these plans are difficult to maintain. I'd like to see open detention ponds considered instead. The concern, however, is the proposals previously submitted for detention ponds have been dismissed as health and safety concerns for town of Poughkeepsie residents. Also, the issue of access liability and maintenance are of major concern. These are for open wet ponds.
I mean, engineering certainly will look at the whole stormwater picture.
We don't want any
for the
kids falling
project.
through the ice when they go ice skating, or dogs or whatever. My third issue I wanted to talk about was noise. In their EIS statement, they say sensitive noise receptors are facilities that uses that are developed dependent upon a state of serenity and quiet, or are uses that are particularly sensitive to noise levels. Land uses that are typically considered to be sensitive noise receptors include residences, schools, hospitals, churches, libraries, etc. Sensitive receptors within a quarter mile of the project site include the Lutheran care and the residential uses that are located adjacent to the north, south, and in the middle of the site. Town of Poughkeepsie has a noise ordinance, Chapter 139 of the Town Code, that regulates unreasonable and unlawful noise. Building construction is not permitted, you know the hours and all that good stuff. However, they also had a chart of the noise that they typically would generate with different machines and different construction activities. All of them happen to be double what the town allows. In fact, the town says in their noise ordinance, in areas zoned residential, continuous sound in air which has crossed a property line shall not exceed any of the following sound levels: 55 decibels at any point, and 50 decibels outside a living area window with a microphone not more than 3 feet from the window opening. As I say, their construction equipment that they're describing, as well as the activities, are almost double what the town allows. So I'm hoping that the town will address that and certainly monitor it if we get to the construction site. One other thing I wanted to bring into my fourth item, or maybe it's my fifth. The height of the residential buildings. All of a sudden, they went from 2 to 3 in this most revised thing, and I think they say it's an addendum 1, 2, or 3, or possibilities 1, 2, and 3. Again, there aren't any 3-story structures from Arlington to the Pleasant Valley town line. I think we'd be making an exception that is not within the town's best interest. And for me personally and the rest of the residents on Darrow Place, I really don't need a 3-story, which when you include architectural roofing is like 40 or 50 feet tall, 15 feet off my backyard. I don't think anybody needs that. I'll never see a sundown ever again. I've been there 40 years and I really enjoy the ambiance that we have currently, and would hate to see that impeded by over-constructing here or going way too high.
Okay.
The last thing I want to bring to my fifth item, I want to bring to the attention of the board is I have a copy of the Friday, November 18th, 2016 lead article in the Poughkeepsie Journal. It talks about the tax breaks in New York State, and it says, are New York State taxpayers paying the price for unfulfilled promises of industrial development agencies? They specifically talk about At a cost of $237 million, the two Avon on Sound apartment buildings in New Rochelle that were supposed to revitalize the city by attracting millennials, it never really panned out, and the city taxpayers are still paying the price. In fact, in New York State, goes on to say, last year more than 7,000 parcels of land in New York State valued at nearly $34 billion were exempted from state, county, and local taxes by IDAs, leaving the taxpayers to make up the difference. Again, I don't know if we really need the taxpayers of the town of Poughkeepsie subsidizing the building of a town center.
I'd just
That's
make
all I
aware
have.
that this board doesn't
Right. Yeah,
see any, the IDA actually has an open meeting that you can attend.
Pardon me?
So I said this board doesn't, we can just make them aware if we're gonna answer them.
Yeah, I'm gonna just
Any-
say, thank you for your comments, but,
Okay.
the taxes are under the purview of this town board, the elected officials. Second up on the public hearing is Charles Agro, Dutchess Turnpike.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Charles Agro. I live at 925 Dutchess Turnpike. That seems loud. A lot of the things I was going to bring up were brought up by the gentleman before me, so I won't go through the redundancies. And a lot of my concerns have been addressed both in my letters and by my neighbors' letters to you and in past meetings. Most of them have been about quality of life, diminished quality of life, both during and after construction. I have to tell you, I was home. I'm at 925 Dutchess Turnpike. Many of you have been to my property as I did a recent addition. And I just had work done. I had to have new septics put in along the property line because of the water runoff from the hill from the nursing home. During heavy rains and snows, the water runs at a diagonal across through McCaffrey's property over my property, which floods my systems. So I had to add a second septic to the back. And I brought up that concern with Kirchhoff before, because during construction, there was construction at the top of the hill from Dr. Barnes Drive, where they put the houses up top, where it was just mudslides down that hill. And I have nothing between my house, because my property line.
So where are you exactly?
925. I'm the Victorian. There's a picture of my house in the back wall of this room. It's the old Victorian that goes from Dutchess Turnpike all the way to the city property, the fence. It's 3 acres that goes straight back. Now, about 2 acres of it is just unfenced trees, except for the old stone border between the two properties. So I have no other buildings between myself and the top of the hill, so water tends to run right down. So I was home when they were just doing the geological tests, and my house shook. The glass shook in the house. And that was prior to, we thought they had actually started construction. We didn't complain because we hadn't heard anything, but we thought they had started construction, and I saw they were really only doing light digging and grazing. So I'm dreading any real construction. Other things that I dread if this project were to go through personally, and then I'll get to a few other points, is that the back 2 acres is just trees. It's woods, and it was intended that way. I purchased the house understanding that the previous tenants had left it as a refuge for the deers and the owls and the turkeys that live there. I see turtles. I see all the animals that have been in your reports, that there are concerns because of light and noise, and they live back there, and I've never put up a fence so that the deer can graze back there. It's a safe place for them. There's going to be trespassing. And the only way to stop trespassing is to put up a privacy fence between my property and their property. I'm concerned about liability during trespassing. It's trees. Those trees fall. There's a lot of limbs and branches back down there. It's untended. It's untended. That's correct. I have concerns about that property line and what's going to happen to the nature back there, both during and after construction. So I've reviewed the letters. And again, I read the Department of Transportation letter, which disagrees on the proposed mitigations that do not appear to match the potential impact to traffic. I've brought that up and other residents have brought that up. It was a traffic jam on 44 just getting here today. It's just a straight line of traffic. I can't even imagine what it's going to be with another. And the last meeting, I assumed over 1,000 parking spots, which is what the Department of Transportation had confirmed, that 1,000 parking spots had been planned. There's no way to run businesses and have that many housing units without assuming that they're going to have customers and people living in them. There has to be parking spots, which means a lot more traffic on 44. And it's dangerous. I guess what concerned me the most was the public transit review about sidewalks and bus stops that have already been brought up. A sidewalk going from where they're saying from Barnes Drive to Victory Lane and Darrow Place would mean a sidewalk going through the front of my property between the curb, my mailbox, and my front fence. It raises, besides the construction and destroying the front of my property, it raises other questions. Who's liable? Does that mean every winter I got to go out and shovel this damn sidewalk now? If somebody slips, am I liable for it? I know that's what it was like in the city. If it cracks, do I have to repair it? Or do I get fined from the city? All of a sudden, now I'm liable for what this project is creating in front of my property. And the third part, I'll make this fairly quick. I know everyone says I'll make it fairly quick and then talks for half an hour, but I'll try. Is the report, the letter from the Recreation Department, Town of Poughkeepsie. And they state, and if I hope you've read these letters from them as well, that there really isn't, they're not reasonably located, the recreational facilities that are being proposed, they're not reasonably located on the project site, and that they don't fulfill the needs of the community. They're not active recreational facilities. They're passive. And that the taxes that would be gained from the property wouldn't compensate the town if we were to have to supply those facilities somewhere else, which is the purpose of this project, which brings me to the project itself, because most of the complaints you've heard from the neighbors is they're fear factor complaints. They're, my God, this monstrosity, it's overbuilt, and I've brought that up. I've looked at similar projects around the country and guidelines for the size of the property, and this is overdeveloped. There's more units per square foot than there are in any other project of this type based on the guidelines I've read. And I brought that up in my letter. I don't have the specifics in front of me. But it's a housing project. It's a housing complex. It might be a small strip mall for the people that live in the complex, but in no way, shape, or form is this a town center for the town of Poughkeepsie. There's nobody in Arlington that needs to. We can't use the swimming pool. Access to the stores may be minimal, but there's thousands of other stores up and down to pull in and off. It's not a place where people are going to meet and commune, which was, I think, the original purpose of this town center. So beyond the monstrosity that the project is and the quality of life issues that it's going to create, its use factor for the town itself gives nothing back to the immediate community. The community that lives here now, that pays taxes now, that have lived here for 10 years, 20 years, 40 years or longer, the people that it is a town center for are the people that don't live there yet that this project is supposed to attract. Mm-hmm. I hope you'll take that into consideration when you're considering this.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
That was all who was signed up to speak at this hearing. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Please come forward and state your name.
Hi, I'm Linda Lentz. I live at 29 Darrow Place. I just don't understand the idea of building a town inside of a town. There could possibly be 700, 800 new residents living in Eastdale, and that's more than live in some of the small towns in the state of New York. We're putting another town on 60 acres of property. I don't understand the whole idea. And the only reason, as the other gentleman said, for a town center is to service the incoming residents, not us. We already have, within a mile of our home, restaurants, pharmacies, gyms, laundromats, liquor store, Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, convenience stores, banks, grocery stores, spas, a dentist, a lab, an urgent care, and many empty commercial buildings. So we don't need a town center. The majority of the support for this project that I've been hearing are from businesses, not local residents. And the reason for that is they all see money signs. Okay, they're going to make big money. Adams, they're all for it. Oh yeah, they got 700 more people shopping in their store. And the town also sees money signs because the taxes are going to be $1 million or whatever. And that's like you pave paradise and put up a parking lot. That's what it seems to me is happening here, okay? I also believe that the town needs to inform all the residents that live within at least 1 mile of this proposed project. The only people that know are a handful of people that live within 200 feet of the proposal, okay? The majority of McDonald Heights, James Street, Thomas Avenue, Hornbeck, and Colonial Knolls have no idea about this project that's been proposed, okay? And it directly affects all of them, but it also indirectly affects thousands of others that travel Route 44 to get to Poughkeepsie. It has been mentioned that motorists will start taking Van Wagner and Salt Point Road as an alternative to Route 44. I already do this. That affects hundreds of other established town residents that live on those roads. A red light at the town center will stop traffic from going east, but it will also stop traffic from going west. The only way that the residents from Darrow Place and McDonald Heights and anyone living on the south side of Route 44 to turn left will be to get into the middle of the road and hope somebody who's already stopped at the red light will let you in. The proposal for a bank directly across from Darrow Place will make it even more dangerous. I will be able to see this town center from my backyard, but I will not be able to get to it safely. My husband and I have lived on 29 Darrow Place for 36 years. We've raised 2 boys who are now married with their own children. Our hopes were to be able to stay in our home so our grandchildren would be able to spend time in the same house and yard their dads did. This proposal severely jeopardizes their ability to get to our home safely. Development is inevitable, but what has been proposed is way out of control. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Seeing none, I propose we adjourn the public hearing. When do you guys think you'll be coming back for additional?
Mr. Chairman, the February meeting, I think, is probably the most appropriate.
In that case, I move we adjourn the public hearing to February 15th, 2018.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn the public hearing. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, public hearing adjourned. Move on to some additional comments. I mean, we had some issues, that were brought up, such as erosion and stormwater. I'm sure that, the plan has to be meted out to address all those things during construction. Do you have any further comments on that, Andrew, tonight?
In general, I think the comment that the plans are in progress, I think is pretty much the general consensus. They've got some work to do. They're making progress. We've got some details that need to be worked out, but I have comments that are generally keep progressing the plans. That's basically it.
And those comments on the stormwater basin, underground stormwater, that's a standard.
The stormwater practices that are being proposed on this project are standard. They're constructed throughout the town, throughout the county, throughout the state. They're very standard. The design guidelines for the above ground practices, the surface features include slope requirements so that the slope is not so steep that if someone does get in there, when it's wet, they can get out safely. It's not too steep to climb out. It's also possible to put fences around these practices that do have permanent
I was just going to ask, are
pools
some
of
of those
water.
practices permanent water?
Yeah, yeah, so there's
to look
definitely
at-
mitigation for safety on these types of things. And we've looked, we can definitely look into those things if it becomes a real concern.
But having some of that underground, relieves the additional need for some of the above-ground
Yes.
stuff.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just jump in, I think there was, it was just from my listening to the letters that were being read from 2003 and 2006. The 2003 letter seemed to be talking about subsurface wastewater disposal,
Exactly.
which is not
Yeah,
being
that
proposed here.
was not a-
And
yes.
and in the 2006 letter related to stormwater, certainly I think as Andy was saying, the engineering's come a long ways in those years in terms of how best to manage the stormwater in a project like this, and the practices that have actually are required by DEC have changed as well, and that recharge of stormwater is a recommended
Requirement, that's a good
I'm
point,
sorry,
Jeff.
it's
Yes.
required, not just
It's a
recommended, it's
requirement now,
required.
yes.
Yes.
They've done a lot of stormwater regulations in recent years.
I'll also point out, one of the comments in the letters had to do with maintenance of these practices. And because this is going to be a privately owned site, they will be required to maintain those practices themselves. The town will have the ability to go in and check on them and maintain them if necessary, but primarily it will be the owner's responsibility to
Right,
maintain
one of the
those.
live and learns that yes, the towns need to have, and we'll, certainly give that maintenance easement to the town to maintain them should the owner not be maintaining them appropriately, so
But
that's.
yes, but it's primarily not the town's responsibility.
Absolutely.
I guess I will also note, one of the comments also had to do with sewage disposal. Currently, the plans that we've reviewed are still showing a connection to the business park treatment plant. But it's my understanding that there's some talk of possibly trying to tie into the town system, which may also reduce the impact of the project on the local area.
Yeah, no, there's quite a bit of planning to still go into this and resolve some of these issues, since it is such a big project. Okay, thank you. Go on the board, start with Peter.
Only, have you settled on the direction you're taking with regard to the wastewater?
Not completely settled yet, but we are going in the direction, as your recommendation, of working with Wartburg to try and convey our wastewater to the Arlington treatment plant.
That's right. Thanks.
And I'll just say, look, this process frequently turns out to give us very good ideas, and it's one of those that's we think that the town has had a good thought there, and we've spent a little more time looking at that option. So this process works. So thank you.
Assuming the existing mains and stuff are sized properly for it, it has to be analyzed. Anything else, Peter? Hey, Ben? Anything?
The only thing, from what I'm hearing, is a lot of the residents have a lot of concerns, I understand that. But they don't seem to be fully aware of what's being done. I think that maybe, I don't know if there is or isn't good enough communication between the applicant and the residents, but I think the applicant is open to listen to anyone in the area and will address their concerns. So don't be afraid to go talk to them. And if you're not sure of something, they can explain it. A lot of effort is being made to do this right.
Excellent point, Ben, thanks.
That's it.
Nicole, anything further?
I'm all set.
Rocco?
No, my question was about the waste water also, and that's been addressed. You're still working on it.
And my own comment said, it looks like you're adding some additional features on the plans, and that looked good, some additional gazebos and whatnot. The playground got moved to a better location, I noticed, some things like that happening. At the At the boulevard entrances, I noticed there's like these round circles now. Is that some kind of fountain thing or planting or
It's going to be a landscaped feature.
some kind of feature?
That's our plan right now.
Some additional details there. Right. I guess overall, the traffic is still the biggest issue, and I know you're working with the DOT, and you'd gone back and forth initially with a roundabout, and I think it's got settled working with DOT on a signal. But you have left turn lanes in and out of the site, which should help, but the signal timing between that signal and other signals up the road to the west needs to be addressed with DOT.
Absolutely, and in our proposal is actually some communication between the Victory Lane signal as well as the signal at our entrance, so that they work together, so that they're not creating a problem, in terms of backing traffic up into one signal when another one is red.
Mm-hmm. When the last question I had was when you removed the townhouse, one of those townhomes, was that a reduction in the number of units, or you just reconfigured?
No, because of some of the changes that were made to some of the other multifamily units, and we went from the breezeway type product to more of a walk-up, stacked townhouse type walk-up product. We just had a reconfiguration of how the units are distributed over the site, but it's the same number of dwelling units and the same number of bedrooms that was originally.
It's just it's one less townhome on the border with Darrow Place. Correct. What I want to make a note of.
And we would like to note that I know Mr. Martin was concerned that there'd be a 40 or 50-foot house 15 feet from his property line, and it's just not the case. We specifically, after listening to concerns from neighbors there, ended up with the townhouse product along the Darrow area, and those are two-story. And they're pulled
setback.
Yeah, setback minimum of 25 feet from the property line.
Right. So
The zoning allows for as close as 15, but we're trying to create more of a screening buffer between.
Okay,
right. And there'll be landscape behind that. So we've tried to.
And the same
address
holds
that.
true for the homes along the Concord Village Drive. We've got
Okay.
townhomes lining Concord Village Drive as opposed to the multi-story buildings. So.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that.
Sure.
All right.
I move that the planning board defer action on development applications pending completion of seeker review and direct the applicant to respond to comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies, including but not limited to those below. Said responses to be reviewed by the planning board department as to adequacy and completeness, numbers 1 through 6.
I'd add additional comments from the neighbors tonight.
Absolutely.
Second.
Moved and seconded to defer action on development applications pending completion of seeker reviews. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, and
Thank you.
Thank you very
Happy
much.
holidays.
continue your. Next up, Creek Road Apartments.
You in good shape for this? Yeah, should be. All right, give me a call in the morning.
Okay.
Creek Road Apartments site plan hearing for proposed site rezoning by the town board from BN Business Neighborhood to RM Residence Multifamily District, and a site plan application to the planning board as amended for 31 apartments in one building of 3-story height, 84 to 92 Creek Road, Zone BN, Neighborhood Business District, 5.18 acres. Secret negative declaration adopted June 15th, 2017, JPJR Holdings LLC owner. Good evening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dan Kohler with Hudson Land Design. We're the engineer for the applicant. I'm going to give a very brief description of the project. and then turn it on over to Michael Berta, who's sitting to my left, who is the project architect, for a discussion on the architectural elements of the building, color, materials, et cetera.
Okay.
The parcel is a 5.18 acre parcel located on the east side of Creek Road, across from the Stewart Shops. What we're proposing is a 31 one-bedroom apartment unit building, which is principally permitted use in the RM zone, which this is now located within as part of a town board action recently. We're serving access to the site from Creek Road by a single entrance. We have 66 parking spaces associated with the project. 2 stormwater management basins, one on the north side and one on the east side of the project. Various amenities through the site. We've got some a new bicycle rack, which is a new addition that you guys have not seen on this plan before. That was a suggestion from the Dutchess County Department of Planning. We have added additional landscaping on all of the bordering sides of the property. We've added a 6-foot vinyl fence on the south side of the property, which was part of the discussions we had with the town board during the rezoning process. We'll be connecting water and sewer services to Creek Road where there's existing infrastructure with capacity. And I'm going to turn it on over to Michael now.
Okay.
Good evening. As Dan said, I'm Michael Berta. I'm the project architect. What we have is 31 one-bedroom units. And the building is, it's a 3-story in the center, and the two wings, the wings on either side are 2-story elements just to bring the building down in scale. Based on some comments from the board the last time we were here, you can see that we've taken the Creek Road elevation and taken it to another level, and we've given it a little bit more of architectural elements and given it a little bit more design. Now, the material that we're going to be using on the building is it's a combination of fiber cement siding and shingle, cement siding shingle. And
Like a hardy board kind of?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying not to use brands.
Yep. Similar.
The trim will be polymer, either AZAC or clear, in white. Roofing is an asphalt. I have a sample of that here tonight for you to hold on to. The buildings themselves, we have them separated in such that it's not a single entrance for the whole building, and each cluster of 6 units will have an entrance. And then the two-story units will have their own entrances. So we're trying to not make it a big hallwayed building, and to give everybody a nice little feeling of going into their own little apartments, without having to walk past everybody's.
Sounds good.
The units themselves, like I said, they're oversized one-bedroom units. They're close to 1,000 square foot units.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Let's see, Eric? We're actually, Liz.
I was just going to start with, to clarify that the town board did approve the requested zone change that was mentioned when Dan had started speaking, but that did happen on November 1st, 2017. Yes, I would refer to Liz Axelson for her comments on the project.
Okay, so a number of notable changes were made in response to the town board rezoning that Kristen's mentioned. There was the condition to have a privacy fence to run along the south side of the project site, facing the adjacent residence. And I had made a comment. I was glad to see it was 448 linear feet of 6-foot-high fence. It's beige or white, and I had suggested a darker, more natural color. Yay.
We actually went with the red cedar.
Okay.
I thought that blended better with the building. So it's a little bit more of a muted color.
Okay.
We'll make that clear on any of the future revisions to the
Okay.
plan.
So red cedar color, okay. It's still a vinyl or composite?
Yeah, it was basically, it was one of the fences that you had sent. It was one of the other colors that they offered.
Gotcha, okay,
So, you never give me choices.
okay. As long as it's more of a darker, more natural, and
Yeah,
not so
that's why we went with the
wearing.
red cedar. We thought it fit in a little bit better, especially with the color scheme of the building that we're going with.
Mhm.
It just blended better.
Good. And then the other big change was on the northern boundary, with more kind of beefed up landscaping. The row of white pines is staggered with a little more depth and backed up with clusters of white and red cedars. And so I felt that was a decent improvement. And then there was a comment, it was originally from Carol Knapp's comment, and then Andy's was that you had a stormwater management practice where the grading had run pretty far down the slope. I guess that would be on the east end of the building, something like that. And that was corrected so that that grading isn't running quite as far down the slope. So that was a nice improvement. So
Yes,
those,
I'm sorry, we were able to go at a steeper slope, but we're gonna be using an erosion control matting to help maintain that slope stability in the future. And in doing so, we cut off and are gonna be able to maintain some of the existing vegetation to the tune of about 0.25 acres or so,
Right.
about a quarter of an acre
Yep.
extra, less disturbance.
It's another good change. Those changes, all taken together, kind of gave me confidence in recommending that the board consider site plan approval with conditions. One thing that we did receive also was some supportive reasoning for a waiver request having to do with easements within 500 feet of the property line. And basically, the supportive reasoning was that the applicant doesn't have access to these adjoining properties and it's an extensive cost. And, it seems like a reasonable request. I don't know that having the information would help your review. You have more detailed architectural elevations and some materials to look at, so maybe after you're done taking whatever action, if you decide to do that, architectural review is recommended. And then everything else, all the other comments are generally pretty technical, fixing up and refining some of the notation about blandings, turtles, et cetera, but most of that is on the plans already.
Thanks, Liz. As long as we're in talking about some runoff and whatnot, do you have any additional comments on that, Andrew?
After the last comment letter, Dan and I kind of got together and we looked at ways that we could address the issues. My biggest concern last time was that the drainage features that were originally proposed were infiltration type practices, and they were sitting at the top of this fill slope. So in looking at it, the best solution was to change them to filtration practices where they have under drains and the water's not allowed to go through the fill material and potentially destabilize it. So with that being done and a few other changes, my comments are mostly addressed at this point. I have only minor comments at this point.
Okay, great.
I have not had the opportunity to look at these plans, but I had spoken extensively with Andy regarding my issues with the excessive ground disturbance in the area of the bioretention. And like I said, we spoke extensively, and he addressed those that said he was satisfied. So I'll just take a quick look at these, but it looks much better than it did. It looks acceptable.
Yeah, it's a steep slope there. You want to avoid erosion and other issues, impacts to that. Okay, at this point, do I hear a motion to open the public hearing?
I move that we open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, call the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing opened, 6-0. Is there anyone in the audience wish to comment on this application? Well, seeing none, I close the public hearing.
Second.
It's moved and seconded to close the public hearing. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. go around the board for additional comments. Rocco?
I think, nothing more at this time.
Brian?
That looks great. I'm all set.
Thank you.
Nicole?
No, not at this time.
Peter?
Just that I have to give both of you a lot of credit. This is a very challenging site. And from an engineering standpoint and look at the architecture. Usually, rear elevation is a poor relative. And, you did a great job.
Thank you.
Also on the west gable end, you have great ideas there to really make that very attractive and saleable. So,
thank you.
Nice job. Congratulations.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Ben?
Just a question, what are people going to see from the road? Is there going to be a sign out there? I didn't see anything here for any kind of, something that indicates that these apartments are there. And I'm not sure the landscaping in the front by the road, what are people going to see when they drive by? Can they see the buildings or?
Yeah, they're one of the reasons why the rear elevations are as detailed as they are is because you will see them from Creek Road. The building is in such, the way that the Gulf Plaza was built and that they've taken down every single tree, is that this building will stand out. You will see it coming from that direction. Now, if you're coming from Dutchess, you may not see it as quickly, but there will be a monument sign by the entrance.
A monument sign?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lighted?
It will be lit, but it'll be downlit.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the town code.
Yeah, we just do that by right now. We haven't uplit a sign in years.
Sounds good.
We certainly also did put a row of trees along in the front here on both sides of the entrance. We started our fence at the front setback line, which is per town code. We can't have anything above, I believe it was 4 feet within it. So we have a 6-foot fence that basically starts here. And what we did was we supplemented a lot more of our landscaping here to just try to soften that effect as cars are traveling north on Creek Road. The area right in here where I'm hitting the pointer is where we're going to have a freestanding mounted sign there.
Okay.
We did put together just some ideas of what we're looking at. We'll be working either, I don't know if it's going to be working with staff or working with this board afterwards to go through it, but we can distribute these if you'd like to see what we're thinking at this time.
Yeah, we'll do that as part of architecture review. All right. Anything else, Ben?
Nope, I agree with Peter. It's a really nice looking project.
Yeah, I remember when you first came in, and it's going through a couple different phases now, and it's one building, but you made it so it didn't look like a huge, long warehouse building. So it looks really nice. Question I had, I think at this point you've resolved it, so you don't need any variances.
It's a variance-free project.
That sounds great, and you've added more landscaping in and other amenities. I wanted to ask about the sidewalks, though. It was hard for me to see on the plan. Is the sidewalk set back enough so that there's that 5-foot buffer?
We've got 8 feet generally along from the edge of Creek Road to the edge of our sidewalk.
Pavement to the sidewalk. Okay, terrific. Because that allows the place for the snow to go and whatnot. And
sure.
And keeps. Okay, that's all I had. Looks like a good moving forward then.
I move that the planning board close the public hearing. Oops, I'm sorry. I move that the planning board grant a waiver of the site plan checklist requirement to show easements within 500 feet of the property based on the submitted supportive reasoning regarding lack of access to an adjoining property not in ownership or control of that applicant. I move that the planning board. Okay. Yep.
It's been moved that the planning board grant a waiver, the site plan checklist requirement. Call to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Wait, you need a second.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear.
Okay, I'll second it. I'll go.
Okay, seconded. Call the question again. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes 6-0.
I move that the planning board adopt the attached resolution conditional site plan approval dated December 14th, 2017, subject to any conditions imposed by the town board in its RM rezoning of November 1st, 2017, and subject to acceptance of applicant responses by the planning board department as to adequacy and completeness in regard to the comments of the planning board and comments of town departments, planning board consultants, and other agencies, including but not limited to the following. Want me to? You know,
Just say 1 through
okay, 1 through 13.
13. Anything additional to add? I don't think so. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to grant conditional site plan approval. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And looks like you're prepared to do architectural approval tonight, and let's
Yes, we are.
move forward with that, and you can distribute the monument sign material you have
Will do.
and continue.
Given the fence too or not?
Would you like to see the fence a little up closer?
Sure, that would be good too.
There's 10 there.
Same here.
I think so, 9, I'm not, I don't remember.
Craig, you want one?
The fence is on this southern border going along the
Yeah, it's
that
again,
property line because of the residents there.
it's against Mr. Sala's property.
Yep, thank you.
I think it's for you to keep. Thank you.
Sure. No problem.
Yeah. You didn't want yours?
Very good with sharing.
You want that, Eric? Got it.
Yeah, I'll make that.
The rest, okay. All right. Stonework.
Great, thank you.
6 foot.
Yeah. I don't need it.
And I don't need one, but
I'll take one for the file.
How-
Please, Dan. Gotta have everything in the file.
More copy, okay.
Thank you.
How close to the sidewalk does that fence come up to then?
The fence stops at the front yard setback.
At the foot,
Which is
okay.
30 feet from the
30 feet
right
from
way.
the right of way, so
Yeah.
so there's a distance between the sidewalk and the start of the fence then?
Yeah. Yeah, a couple of reasons, one, we didn't want to impede Mr. Sala's, line of sight.
Right, that's one thing I was getting to,
Yeah.
as well as how it,
And also the town code, you can't have a 6-foot fence in the front setbacks without a variance.
what kind of a stone on what color stone on this monument sign?
It's a ledge stone, and it'll be grayish. And it's gonna be a gray natural blend type, kind of a mixed blend.
That explains what I've seen on the plans. It looks like it's been, on the plans, I've seen it on the southern side of it. But I think you were pointing out to the north side of the,
That,
is the sign,
that's correct, that's where we're proposing.
so it's
to have the
gonna,
sign.
so it's gonna move from where,
That's actually where we've had it proposed before. Maybe what you're referring to
Oh.
is this right here, which is actually a water meter pit.
okay, that's what I thought was the monument sign, got it.
Again, we have it on the other side, so this way it's not gonna really block anybody's line of sight.
Do you have the material board to show us here?
I apologize, I got the samples so late, I didn't have a chance to put them up
Put
on
them
the
up on
board.
the board, but
Yeah, I mean,
You
I
have
have them,
samples?
I had the,
Pass them around for you.
yeah.
yep, we can,
Yeah.
it'll be good to pass around. And architectural review, so anyone can comment. I think he's presented architecture fairly well already. Any comments you have? Chime in.
I think it looks great.
Carl, just a quick question.
Sure.
One of the notes is sort of educational pamphlet will be distributed or at the site. Do you have that?
I'm sorry?
The educational pamphlet for the Blandings Turtle? Do you have one of those created or?
Yes, we do.
You do?
We worked with the DEC on that.
Okay, if you could just,
Yeah,
is there
so-
a copy of something?
Well, as soon as we had been asked to provide any correspondence we have with the DEC. So what we're gonna do is we'll send that out and then we'll
Very
get you a copy on that. Okay.
So the darker is mainly the bulk of it, and then the lighter for trim?
Yeah, the lighter color is going to be the shingles, and the darker will be the lap.
I can put this up on the screens too if you wanna have these on the computer right now.
Okay.
If you wanted them on the screens, it's up to you.
Mark could pull the rendering closer to you
Might
if
be
that
good
would
to
help.
see a better rendering, yeah, sure.
On the screen, or you want the?
We can see screens
Okay.
down here as well. We don't have to roll that down.
I'll tell her to put the screen down.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm already plugged in, yeah.
Just want to make sure.
There we go, I can see it closer here.
Yeah, the railings will be a white vinyl.
Okay.
And unfortunately, the sample that they gave me was a cutaway of an entire fence, so I didn't bring it in.
It's a big sample.
Yeah. When you have a client, when you have a client by the name of Paige, you expect that they get everything for you right away, and they don't.
Looks nice.
They've built a few things too.
Yeah.
Okay, now I see what you're doing with the contrasting colors there.
Yeah, we're on top of changing adding a lot of different ins and outs on the building. We've changed the materials as they come in and out.
All right, anyone have any architectural comments further? I move we accept architecture as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept architecture. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Looks like a great project.
Happy holidays.
Thank you, you
Thank
too.
you, you too.
And also tree clearing before,
We'll be pushing for that.
March 31st, the day everybody lives for.
Seems to be the discussion du jour here.
Did we get,
there's another piece.
the architects?
Only halfway.
He didn't have, it's on pieces, he didn't have a board. Oh, I have to ask.
Mike?
Do you have an updated elevation versus the one that, or is that the same one we got?
There was one submitted in November 27th.
November 20.
I have December 4th here.
Yeah, I have the most recent.
I have December 4th.
That's the mall.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's the mall.
Revised November 7th.
As long as you have it.
This should be it.
Got a revision note on it. Okay, so that's up to date there. Thanks.
Okay.
Right, next up, I'd like to, this time ask for a motion to suspend the rules to allow comments on any other items on tonight's agenda. Motion to suspend the rules. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Suspend the rules. Is there anyone in the audience wishes to comment on any other plans on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, I move we resume the rules.
Good night and happy holidays.
Two, have a good trip.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to resume the rules. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next up, Poughkeepsie Plaza Mall amended site plan. Amended site plan approval to reconfigure existing tenant spaces to create 2 new anchor tenant spaces. Site work will include 2 new dumpster enclosures and loading dock, along with exterior facade renovations at the existing west-facing side of the mall. 2586 to 2600 South Road, Zone BSC, Business Shopping Center, 14.56 acres, Type 2 action, Poughkeepsie Plaza Mall LLC owner. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jay Deasing with Maury Architects. I'm here with Bob Malick and Rob Malick, who own and operate the Poughkeepsie Plaza Mall. I think everybody's probably familiar with the mall, but we're at 2600 South Road. The mall's currently occupied by Marshalls, Modell's, Mattress Firm, the larger tenants, and then a number of other smaller tenants. It's a 14.5 acre parcel in the business shopping center district in the town. And as the chairman mentioned, we are proposing tonight that we're going to be taking a portion of the northern end of the interior mall, and we're going to be what they call demalling that. So that's going to be converted, the smaller tenant spaces will be converted into 2 larger anchor tenant spaces. Both of those spaces will be about 22,000 square feet, and they'll now have entrances out to the exterior as opposed to being connected to the interior mall. The southern portion of the mall, from about County Dental and Broadme down to Marshalls and Famous Footwear, will remain an interior mall. We're not really proposing any significant impacts to the overall site plan. The circulation, the parking and whatnot will remain the same. The only thing we're really doing is in the back. We are taking the individual tenant spaces, we're combining all their trash and loading areas into one common trash and loading area that'll be shared between the 2 new anchor tenant spaces. And then the second part of our proposal is to renovate the facade of the mall. You may recall that we were here last year, the beginning of the year, and we renovated the northern section of the mall, the Modell's area,
Right.
Mattress Firm and whatnot. And so we're going to carry that theme across the rest of the mall down to the Marshalls and Famous Footwear end. So we're continuing all the same materials, the same finishes, colors. The materials are a ground-faced architectural block at the base of the building. And then the columns, the upper portions are a stucco ephes type material, and the cornice, again, the same colors as on the north end. There's some standing seam metal roofing accent areas, and typically, or what we're ending up with, this is one of the entrances for one of the anchor stores. This is the second one. This is split in half because it's so long, but this is starting down at the Modell's end and heading south. Then we have also entrances designated for kind of a mall entrance here near where Joann's Fabric is, and then the Marshall's entrance at the southern end of the mall. So I do have samples if anybody on the board would like to take a look at those. But again, they're all the same colors that are on the north end, so I'd be happy to pass it around if anybody would like to look.
That'd be nice, yeah.
Yep.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Yeah, we'll pass it around and we'll do an architectural review later.
I didn't think so. So basically, that's an overall summary of what we're doing, and certainly look forward to any comments or questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Kristen or?
Nope. Yep, so Jay did a really nice introduction and review of the project. It's fairly straightforward, at least from a planning staff comment review. We just asked that there were a couple of details that might have been omitted just in the plan set, so we just asked for those. Pretty straightforward. And I also think that the planning board might actually have a few inquiries about what's going on internally in the mall that came up in our field trip meeting earlier this week, just as far as store locations and how that's functioning internally.
Okay, to just touch on that, there's nothing really set in stone yet. The 2 anchor tenants, there's lease negotiations going on right now and discussions, but there's nothing really formalized, so we really can't say what those 2 tenants are going to be at this point. Some of the tenants that are in those areas, some of the stores that are in these areas are going to end up relocating potentially down to some other spaces in the mall that are being created. There are a couple spaces here that are vacant. There's 3 spaces down towards the end of the mall near Toys R Us that are being created because one larger tenant left. So there's some reconfiguration going on, and really some of it is still up in the air, so we really don't have firm answers for you yet. But
it looks like you're not those new anchor tenants would not have any access from the mall interior itself?
They're not connected to the mall. They're exterior anchor stores.
Okay, thank you. That,
Yeah.
yep. All right, before we go around the board, any engineering comments on this project?
No, that, we haven't done any kind of review on this. I don't think there's any site plan issues really for us to take a look at, so.
Okay, yep, it's mostly internal and architectural of nature. Let's go around the board, start with Peter this time.
No. Nope.
Ben? Good?
Okay.
So there was just the issue of garbage overflow at the site. So, we just need to make sure that that stays cleaned up, right?
Yeah, in the rear, just took a drive around the back there just to make sure, also from a safety standpoint too, for fire trucks getting in and out of there, just access and making sure everything's kind of kept neat and clean.
No problem.
Is there trash enclosures on the plans, or is that?
There is a trash enclosure that's proposed that's going to be shared between the two larger anchor stores.
And where's that? That's near the?
Right in between the two,
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
yep.
About where my
I see
hand
it
is.
now, yep, thanks.
And it does have an enclosure with a gate, so hopefully that stays a little neater.
Keep it under control.
Yes, sir.
Anything else, Nicole?
No, not this time.
Brian?
No, looks great. Thanks for finishing the project.
I got a question for the staff. With the new loading dock, would that accommodate larger trucks? Is that why you're doing that? And is there enough room back there for them to turn around? Is that?
Yes, sir.
Looked into all that? Okay, everything's all set there.
Yeah, and actually it was interesting. We had our fire department chief, he commented stating that I think that the trucks you used or in your radius on there were actually larger than typically used on plans that he's seen. So there should be enough room for accommodation.
I don't have anything else.
All right, thank you. Myself, I guess the trash is an issue as well. And I think you've explained that you do have some tenants that you're investigating. I did have a question about the parking in general. It's often tight, especially in that corner near the bakery and those stores that are there now. Is the parking on site, does that meet the code currently? And how's that going to be affected?
We do have a parking analysis that's here down on the plan. There is also a variance that carries on with the site of 131 spaces that was granted back in, I think that was 1987. Yeah, so it's been there for quite a while, but we do feel there is adequate parking. Some of the parking out in towards the Route 9 side doesn't get used as often, so that probably will start to fill up a little bit. But we are, we're meeting the code as far as parking, and obviously there's stores here now that use some of that parking, so we're not increasing the parking demand because it's based on gross square footage.
Same square footage overall.
Yeah. So we're not really creating an increase in parking demand with the project.
All right, thank you.
I move that the planning board determine that the proposal meets criteria for a seeker type 2 action pursuant to seeker part 617.5 and no further environmental review is required.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that planning board determines that it meets the criteria of seeker type 2. Call the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0, or 5-0, right, we lost. And one more.
We lost one.
I move that the planning board grant conditional site plan approval, Poughkeepsie Plaza Mall, amended site plan subjected to the following numbers 1 through 4.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to grant conditional site plan approval. Call to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we want to do architectural review. Prepared, and you passed around a thing already, so please review that, and we'll make our architectural comments.
Sure. Yeah, I did pass around the samples. I think I went through the features in my initial presentation, so certainly if there's any other questions, I can.
I mean, it's basically matching what you did on the north end, is what you said, as
That's correct.
colorations and.
All the same colors and materials that is on the north end will just be carried down. along
Are the stores be changing any of their signs in accordance with that?
Existing signs will be relocated. Any new signs for the new tenant spaces would come before the board or go through the approval process as necessary.
If there's any size variances or anything that would have to go to ZBA on sign size, but.
We're showing
generally.
a signage area on the two new entrances, and we just put that rough square, that's the permitted size, but any specific or detail sign proposal would have to come and get approval from the town.
Anyone else have any comments on architecture?
Fine. Good to go.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion. Approve architectural review.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve architectural review. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Sexy's back.
Oh, 6-0. Back, Ben's back. 6-0.
Back. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Great, thank you very much.
Good luck with the project. and
Happy holidays.
Thank
Good luck with the new tenants. Hopefully that works out.
She's anxious to get up there, look. Been sitting here all night.
All right. Kelly, Dahlia Site Plan Review Project, reapproval of the site plan application for 4 senior housing and 2 mixed-use buildings, total 84 dwelling units and 10,124 square foot non-residential. Sophie's Way and Violet Avenue lots and 35 Violet Avenue zoned R20 residence, single family, 20,000 square feet. And Shad Senior Housing Overlay District, 7.01 acres. Negative declaration adopted March 19th, 2015. Amended site plan approval granted March 17th, 2016. Expired September 13th, 2017. Linda E. Dahlia, owner.
Good evening. Kelly Leibolt with KRC. Mr. Chairman, thank you. I think you somewhat summed up the action. There was an original approval, an original neg deck. The plans were signed. We applied for a renewal. For a variety of reasons, they weren't able to start the construction. We actually subsequently applied for 2 90-day renewals and then tried to apply for the third and found out, I should know this, but that there's only 2 90-day extensions. So the approval did lapse. The town has this new provision to allow for a reapproval, so we reapplied for a reapproval. Same project, no changes, and that was the documents that you had in front of you.
And the project remains unchanged from, basically.
Correct. There's been no changes to the project, correct.
All right, anything from?
Sure. Yeah, I think Kelly's characterized it correctly. The new local law does permit reapproval. Staff have drafted a recommendation that the board waive the public hearing for this project, and to as remaining as the lead agency on the application. From before, the board is still the lead agency and may move ahead with consideration of a negative declaration. The neg deck you have in your packet has been revised from the previous one to take into account events since that time, such as the settlement of the lawsuit. So it has been updated accordingly. And there's a recommendation to approve the plans, essentially the same plans, the exact same plans that were approved previously.
Okay, thank you. It's unchanged mostly, but to go around the board quick and see if there's any additional comment.
Nothing here.
Okay,
I'm all set.
Nicole, anything?
No, nothing here.
Ben?
Okay with me?
Peter? Same here. No engineering comments, I assume, as well? Okay, let's go ahead and
I move that the planning board waive the public hearing on the Dahlia Senior Housing Project Site Plan reapproval.
Second.
And seconded to waive the public hearing. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes 6-0.
I move that the planning board as lead agency hereby determines that the Dahlia Senior Housing Project Site Plan reapproval would not have a significant adverse effect on the environment and that an environment impact statement will not be required for the reasons set forth in the attached resolution, determination of non-significance, negative declaration dated December 14th, 2017.
Second.
It's moved and seconded that the planning board as lead agency determines that the reapproval will not have a significant adverse effect on the environment. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I move that the planning board
Choose B to insert adopt the attached resolution.
Adopt the attached.
I move that the planning board adopt the attached conditional site plan approval for the Dahlia Senior Housing Project Site Plan reapproval as depicted on the plan set dated November 24th, 2014, and last revised on March 25th, 2016, and signed by the chairman on June 21st, 2016, subject to the following number 1A through E.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adopt the attached conditional site plan approval. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I move that the planning board grant architectural approval for the Dahlia Senior Housing Project as depicted on the plan set dated November 24th, 2014, and last revised on March 25th, 2016, and signed by the chairman on June 21st, 2016.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to grant architectural approval. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Go forth and start the project.
Happy holidays.
Yep, happy holidays.
I'm gonna get up and then I'm gonna come back.
He's not going.
Bit of a wait tonight. We had a few projects on the agenda.
Yes.
Okay, North Point Center. Seek a review and site plan review for a proposal in the town and city of Poughkeepsie. In the town, additional parking on a parcel with an existing restaurant, and in the city, site redevelopment for 3 new buildings of 3 stories each, total 12,000 square feet, office, commercial, and 14 apartments of 2 bedrooms, in addition to an existing 2-story office building in the town. Or in the town is 120 Delafield Street, Zone BH Business Highway, and WD1 Waterfront District 1, 1.64 acre. In the city is 112 Delafield Street, 110 Delafield Street, 54 Spruce Street, 52 Spruce Street, and 48 Spruce Street, 46 Spruce Street, all Zone C1 Neighborhood Commercial and R4 Medium Density Residential, 1.53 acres. Total 3.17 acres, unlisted action, North Point Center LLC owners.
Thank you. Kelly Leibolt with KRC. I have been before this board for this project. I came, I don't know, maybe 2 months
Been a
ago,
couple
just to give
months,
you
yeah.
sort of a preliminary update where you did lead agency review. And it's a little bit of a challenging project because it's in the city and the town. And I think most of you know where this is. This is the Cosimo's restaurant. But many of you probably think that that's the town. The parcel's actually in the town and the city. And you don't really know why, because the property line runs literally through the middle of the parking lot. So this is Delafield Street, Route 9. This is the Cosimo's restaurant. And, you know, this area is the parking lot. This is the existing 2-story office building. So the property line, or sorry, the city-town line literally runs through the middle of the parking lot. So I don't think many of you know that you're crossing municipal boundaries when you're over there. The lion's share of the project for this entirety, the city and the town, is in the city. So the applicant is proposing a new office building next to the existing office building. Same identical office building. It'll be a 3-story building. And it's also proposing 19 apartment units on the corner of Delafield and Spruce. So that action, those two buildings, all of the site improvements, water, sewer connections, et cetera, are solely in the city. The portion that's in the town is obviously the access. The access isn't changing. It's the same ingress egress on Delafield Street. And we're proposing on-street parking on Delafield Street. That work is under the purview, under the review of New York State DOT. We have met for months and months and months with New York State DOT. So coming to you is the fruition of many months and many changes in the plan. There is one additional change, I think, Eric, you had caught, that there's a reduction of one parking space on Delafield Street. This is sort of an evolving project, and it's moving pretty quickly. And because we have DOT in the city and the town, there's a lot of catch-up that I'm trying to do. So as I had said to you before, when I first came, I'm going to come before you repeatedly so you have an update of what's going on with the project, but know that really your purview is these on-street parking spaces.
Yeah, I mean, we granted the city
lead agency status.
Last time
Yes.
you were here, so.
Yes. So tonight, I'm here because we did do a significant submission to the city, and I wanted to keep you involved in knowing what was going on and gather your seeker comments. The city is moving ahead in their review, and we're hoping, come the beginning of the year, we're starting to resolve the seeker issues and perhaps move ahead with a seeker determination from the city. So tonight, I was hoping to gather your comments, your seeker comments, relative to the project and any other comments that you have. And then, of course, we'll incorporate those into the application that's before the city. We are having a public hearing next week at the City Planning Board. I think it's the 19th, Tuesday the 19th. That public hearing will probably stay open, and we'll move it into January, and then hopefully we can proceed with some more formal decisions. So that's the sum of the project for you. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. I do have the comments that you had generated. All of them are reasonable.
I mean, the thing that stands out to me is last time it looked like there was two buildings with a space on the corner, open space. Now it looks like
Correct.
a single building, so that's.
Yeah, I actually have the elevations that I can show you if you want to see them, but I think I gave them to you. One of the comments from the city was that if we were going to build a traditional urban setting and trying to get back to that, the block-like brownstones, they're connected, and they didn't really want the gap as you were coming up Spruce, going toward Route 9. They didn't want to see that hole. So we worked with the architect, and we developed a building they're physically connected. So it gave us a little bit more room. On the north side here, we added some additional parking. The city retained an architect that we're working with him on open space and some amenities, some of those softscape amenities, so that it is really a traditional live, work, play. That's the theme, behind it. Although it's small, that's the theme.
Not having that gap, you don't see the parking straight through behind.
Correct. It really, all of a sudden, it hid everything. It hid the existing building, when you bring these together, it hid this. This you're going to see, that's regardless, it's up on the hill. But I think it's a better building, it came together nicely on the corner. So that's really the sum of the project.
Kristen?
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. As you noted, you did receive our comments, so if you had any questions, feel free to reach out. Our biggest thing was just consistency between site plan to traffic and the landscape. There was just, some of them were still showing two buildings, some of them are, and you've addressed that. Just again, because the town is focused on the on-street parking, so just clarifying and making it clear how many spaces are proposed. And I think on the site plan, I'm sure it was unintentional, but the title block was covering the
the parking spaces.
Parking spaces, on the northern end of that. Yeah. So just want to make sure we're clear on that and how many spaces there are, and that we're being consistent and diligent in our reviews.
Perfect. Yep. Very good. There's only one comment that I had that you had raised, and it had to do with the water and the sewer. So actually, the water department raised a pretty interesting issue that I really wasn't aware of. So hopefully we can work with you and water and sewer and the city to try to unravel this. The issue is that the water service for the new building comes through a master meter pit, an existing master meter pit. And so that's billed to the city. No, sorry, that's billed to the town. So the town bills the property owner, but the sewer discharge for Building A goes to the city. So the city would have to treat sanitary sewer and not get a corresponding compensation for that. So we'll work it out. I don't know if the city caught on to that yet, but that was a good catch from the town. And we'll try to unravel that. And it's really a billing issue. That's what the comment was.
Yep, sounds good. Anything from engineering?
Our review of this is, like Kelly said, really very minimal. Like she said, there's the on-street parking, which the one comment I had, because it is technically an increase in impervious area, the SWIP does need to address it. They just need to look at it and make sure they do something about it, the increase. The other issue that seeker-wise that I just want to comment on is that they are expanding the parking lot in I guess it's the northwest corner over there. And they do need to bring in a little bit of fill, and it's already a steep slope. They just need to make sure that they keep a close eye on that and do the right thing, either with a retaining wall or a properly stabilized slope. So that's really it.
Yeah, Dan Laux has been brought on, who's the geotech engineer, a couple of months ago. So we've already done some geotech work. We have some additional work that we have to do, but we'll give the town and the city copies of all those reports.
That's fine.
Okay. Do you expect a retaining wall in that area?
I think that the building's going to be on pilings. I don't know what they're going to do over on that west side where Andy's talking about. But they really are intensely meeting now because we're hoping to kind of push construction starting, April, May.
Yep.
So we're in that heavy push right
Is there
now.
any tree clearing that needs to be done, or
There'll be a couple trees, yes.
before
Yep,
the end of March?
Yes, yep.
Constant theme tonight.
Yes, it's drilled into our heads. Like a calendar.
Anything further? Okay.
Yes. Again, we can't see the spaces because the block is blocking. You have here proposed 10 spaces. Is that actually what you're proposing?
Are
10?
you talking about along Delafield Street?
Yes.
Over here? I believe it's 11, and.
Because it seems like there are 11 there. You have 10 on the plan.
I believe it's 11 spaces, and we'll
Okay.
get that clarified on that submission.
So it's actually 11. Now, on the sidewalk, is there going to be a maintenance agreement?
I think
the
that's a
owner?
requirement in the town, so we would have a maintenance
Okay,
agreement.
I just want to make that
Yes.
clear. Other than that,
11.
I'm good.
Anything?
Nothing.
Ben? Okay. Nicole?
I just had one question, and I'm not even sure that you guys could do this or not, and technically it would be considered the city, but if there was a emergency or something like that with, any of those buildings, it would be so great to have a second entrance or exit, maybe possibly off of Spruce Street. And I know that's because the way the building comes out, and I know there's some other residential buildings next to it. I don't even know if that's possible, but I just wanted to kind of put that, out there and see. If there's
The
any
building
possibility.
does abut the adjoining property owner, the one building does. I think that was something that was raised initially with the city.
Right.
And we've assured everyone that there's full access in that back parking lot, that you can get easily throughout that back parking lot for access.
Okay.
I appreciate the comment. I know on some larger projects where you have longer streets or the houses, the structures aren't right up on the street. This is, recreating that city setting where we try to have the houses right on the street. So hopefully if there's an emergency, an ambulance or a fire truck can get right in there on the road.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it is just one access point for quite a mix of uses now. So
Yes,
it
it's
does.
intended that way. So this is really a planning tool. It's to create a sense of space that everyone is in their own controlled area. It's that, sort of live, work theme concept. Yep.
Right. The street parking is intended for non-residents, residents?
It's really not designated for anyone. Once it's on-street parking, anyone can have it.
Sure.
The parking spaces along Spruce are intended for the residents. They're traditional brownstones, so you would access I think I had gone over the layout, but just in case I didn't. So it's a 3-story building. The lower level are singles. They're individual studios or singles. The upper 2 levels are 1 unit. So you walk in and you're at your living space and the bedrooms are upstairs. You can access both units, or the 2nd-story units you can access from the lower back parking lot in case someone can't get a space on Spruce Street so they can get in. The idea is that they can park on Spruce and come in their front door. You would go up the traditional steps, like a brownstone. You go up those front steps and then you enter your space through the front door. So they were really intended for the residents. They'll be open to anyone, right?
Okay, yeah, just that current parking lot now can sometimes get a little.
The Cosmos parking lot?
spot.
It does, and so, yeah, their peak during the day is, a lunch.
Sure.
And so there's an office building there as well, and the theory behind it is that the residents leave in the morning, the parking spaces are occupied, it's shared parking by the office during the day, the office people leave, the residents come home, and so it's your traditional shared parking spaces. We have, if you strictly adhere to the code, we're short 7 parking spaces, by requirement. That doesn't take into consideration the shared concept where you would have really a reduction in the required number of parking spaces. But if you strictly adhere to the code, we're short 7.
And forgive me if you covered this, but throw snow into the mix, what happens?
Well, the on-street parking spaces are plowed. The parking spaces in the back would have to be cleared and there's snow removal areas.
Sure. They have to, so the on-street during a snow emergency, they'd have to get off.
Yeah, it depends on the street requirements. So in the city, there's some streets that are emergency access points. I'm not sure if this one is or not. If they are, the cars have to get removed.
Sure.
If not, they stay there and they plow them out the
get
next
plowed
morning.
Sure, okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Rocco?
Same thing. Parking, we've gone through it.
Thank you.
Comments I have, myself, parking, the on-street Delafield, I was wondering how, if you're reviewing it with DOT, how close to Route 9 is it getting, with people turning off for Route 9 and somebody's trying to parallel park there, or is that gonna be a backup issue?
That's actually one of the reasons that we lost some parking spaces that Peter had brought up. I think there were originally more parking spaces there, 13, there might have been 14. So the ones closest to Route 9 were removed from a safety issue from cars turning in. And then the one closest to the entrance, we lost because of a sight distance requirement under the DOT criteria. So they've looked at both of those.
So that's been examined?
Yeah, we actually, a lot of times I come before this board and I haven't met with DOT or we haven't really done a lot with them. This has been through DOT at length. So they've had several whacks at the stick. Yeah, yes.
Don't want to create an issue there.
Oh, no, it's okay. I mean, it's good to ask, but just so you know that we've been meeting with them. They've seen several iterations, which is why the numbers have changed.
Okay, thanks. Another thing, I saw some amenities in the details plan, such as benches, bike racks, et cetera, but did not see them on the site plan specifically.
They're on the landscaping plan.
Okay, I missed where they were.
Yeah, and they're a little hard to read, but there are, I know I put a bike rack on there, Carl. I know it's on there, so I can assure you.
Sounds good.
I wish, as soon as you brought it up, I'm like, why didn't I say it in my presentation?
That's fine.
Bike rack.
Last thing I have to ask is you might consider an EV space for a charging station in one of these
We would absolutely
spaces,
consider
because
that,
I know
yeah.
Cosmos down in Newburgh has a
Yes, they do.
super station there.
Yes.
But
I can make a note of that.
there's a flood of those vehicles coming onto the market
Absolutely.
in the next year or two, so.
Yep, we would consider that.
All right, let's.
I move that the planning board direct the planning department to prepare secret site plan review comments inclusive of comments and discussion at the December 14, 2017 town planning board meeting. Request that the City of Poughkeepsie Planning Board consider said seeker comments in its review of the proposed action and requests that subsequent project information, agency correspondence, and written comments received by the City Planning Board to be provided to the Town Planning Board as an involved agency for review and comment.
Second.
The motion has been approved, read and seconded. Do I call to question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I move that the planning board defer further action on the town site plan application pending more complete application information and plans for seeker and site plan review, subject to the following numbers 1 through 5.
Do I hear a second?
Sorry.
Moved and seconded to defer further action pending completion, more complete application information. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you very much. So we'll be back again probably in February, I'm gonna guess.
Continue, and good luck with the plans.
Sorry.
Good luck with the
Thank you
plans.
very
Happy
much.
and happy holidays.
Thank you, you too. Thank you.
Okay, we've got a couple of time extensions. Sayago Shanner lot line revision, time extension for an approved lot line revision to convey a 0.175 acre portion of 3 River Road to 4 Main Street in New Hamburg, zoned R20, residence single family, 20,000 square feet, RNH, residence New Hamburg, and WDI, waterfront district 1, 1.0448 acres. Negative declaration adopted June 15th, 2017. Andrea Sayago and Edward Sayago, owner, and Marjorie Shanner, owner.
I move that the planning board grant a 90-day time extension of conditional lot line revision approval from January 11, 2018 forward to April 11, 2018.
Second.
Moved and seconded to grant a 90-day time extension. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. PLP McKinley Lane lot line revision, time extension of a conditional lot line approval for a plat to realign the property lines of 6 parcels, one of them located in the city of Poughkeepsie, to result in 3 parcels in the town and 2 parcels located in both the town and the city. 30, 32, 34, 36, and 40 to 42 McKinley Lane in the town and McKinley Lane rear in the city. Zone BN Neighborhood Business District in the town and Zoned I1 Light Industrial in the city. 2.58 total acres. Secret negative declaration and conditional lot line revision approval adopted on July 21st, 2016. LP Associates LLC owner.
I move that the planning board grant a 90-day time extension of conditional lot line revision approval to February 11, 2018.
Second.
Moved and seconded to grant a 90-day time extension. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I move that we terminate the meeting.
Second.
Motion is made to terminate the meeting. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
See ya.